This episode was sponsored by Property, the leading real estate platform for all real estate transactions with a comprehensive ecosystem. They combine highly trained experts with the latest technologies on an intelligent platform to provide clients, brokers, and service partners with risk-free, flexible, and simplified services. Learn more at property.com/ch. That's property with an i.com/ch.
We invested a huge amount of time to build the whole thing. And because of our first experience, we just didn't talk to anyone about it. So like the biggest mistake you can make, right? As an entrepreneur, never talk to your users. So, and then we launched that thing and of course it failed completely.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Sylvan.
Gian, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure and a big honor to have you as a guest today.
Thank you, Sylvan. Nice that we can finally do this.
I was looking forward to that for so long. You are an entrepreneur and business angel, currently also co-founder and CEO at Norm, a startup which wants to help drive the decarbonization in the building sector. Before we talk about what you're building today, let's go back in time a bit. You left university and then actually worked as a consultant for 3 years before calling it quits and founding your first startup. What didn't really click with you with the corporate world?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it didn't click. I liked the job there. It was a small consultancy, a boutique focused on finance and banking, and there was I liked that intersection of technology and banking also during my studies. But it was more that it was already clear that at some point I would start a company. So already during university, my later co-founder Nicholas and me, we did our first trials, unsuccessful trials in building a company. And that's why at the end, I switched. And there is a funny backstory there. When we were at university, Nicholas and I, we tried a few things. They didn't work. The last thing we tried, the idea was not so bad, but at the end, because it was in university, we had so many people involved, professors, it was Microsoft at that time and so on, that we felt as we lost the whole idea to like a big group that was involved. And then we thought, okay, now we need to do it differently. We need to build something, just us by ourselves. And that's what we did besides our consulting career. So we on the side, we built up something. We called it Financial Q back then. It was a platform for investors where you could check out like the news related to your stocks, stuff like that. Nice. And we invested a huge amount of time to build the whole thing. And because of our first experience, we just didn't talk to anyone about it. So like the biggest mistake you can make, right? As an entrepreneur, never talk to your users.
Exactly.
So and then we launched that thing, and of course it failed completely because we never talked to a potential user before. And then we learned from that, and that's like how when we started the thing that became Contovista, we called it Bankavista back then. We did it again, we did it completely in a different way. So we really started with the landing page describing what we want to do, trying if is there a need for such a solution. And that was funny because there it was completely different. We launched this landing page with a nice video and everything, but nothing behind, right? And there was quite a lot of people that really signed up and really good conversions and like people that were angry that the product wasn't yet ready. So
that's a pretty good sign.
That's a good sign, yeah. So it was And that's when we were working for this consulting company. And then the funny story that I wanted to tell is then we were not sure, okay, should we go all in on this or not? And then at some point, the guys from FinNews wrote us, and it's like in the finance space, everyone reads FinNews. So they reached out and said, oh, because back then startups in the finance space was not a thing. They found out about us, and they said, yeah, we're running a piece on you on Friday. Please give us a picture and check if this is correct. And we were like, shit.
It's getting real.
No, and we were still working for the consulting company. What if this now comes out and every of the clients of the consulting will read about this? So this will be a bit of a strange thing, right? So we asked them, okay, could you postpone the publication to Monday so that we have a bit of time to think about what to do? They agreed, and then during that weekend, we quit our jobs and went all in on the idea.
That's an amazing story. I never heard that before, that someone sort of quit their jobs because of an upcoming news article.
Yeah, there was the final push that we needed to go all in. Yeah,
that's so cool. And you already described the learning, right? You talk to your customers very early. You really followed this lean startup methodology in that sense.
Yeah, also a nice story. The Lean Startup, the book of Eric Ries, was written between that first venture that failed, right? Because we didn't talk to users, and when we started Contovista. So that was the book for us. When it came out, it was like, okay, this guy just explains every error that we did. And it was great.
But sometimes I feel, even if you had read the book before you even started your first venture, you sometimes have to make the mistakes yourself, then read the book, and only then you really get it.
Then you get it for sure, yes. And like with many things. Also with investing, that we will talk later about. I mean, you can read whatever you want, but at the end, you have to do some of the mistakes to learn it, I think.
Absolutely. We did talk about the Contovista story a bit with Thomas Dubendorf on an earlier episode, so I don't want to go into too many details here, but of course, the exit. You had a very successful exit with Contovista, and then 6 years after founding the company and staying after the exit for a little bit, you left the company. Tell us a bit more about this exit. How did that happen, and why was that such an important outcome, not only for you personally, but also for the Swiss ecosystem?
We started with Contovista, and then, of course, for a long time, nothing happened. And then, because our target clients were banks, and to sell to a bank is not so easy. And back then it was like unprecedented that like when we did our first contract, we were 4-person startup selling a software to a bank.
It's insane. That's insane.
So that took a while. Yeah. But then we had like the first one was Schweizer Kantonalbank, and then the second one was ZKB. And the combination of those two did something. Yeah. It unlocked something where then all the other banks also needed to have such a solution. And we had very good product market fit in Switzerland, because this business that we had with Contovista had a sort of a network effect, because we were like enriching transactions. So the more transactions we would enrich, the better it becomes, and the others would profit from that. And then at some point it was clear, if you're doing something in that area, you would need to do it with us. So we had a great business, and like almost all banks in Switzerland wanted to work with us. And then also, like, the company that acquired us in the end, they saw this, and we were like a missing piece in their business, and they looked at us already from a while, and then they were like, okay, now we have to buy these guys, because the traction we had was extreme, and this was a Swiss company, so for them Switzerland was important. And for us, when we then had to decide, do we sell or not, it was just clear, either we sell now in a really good position, or we go all in again, build it up also in Europe. But we already tried some things in Europe, and it was clear, okay, it's not such an easy case, because you already had competitors. So the product market fit outside of Switzerland was not so great. And because we were in such a good situation, we decided, okay, let's do it. Let's sell the company. And then it was already clear for Nicolas, my co-founder, and me that, of course, we will use the money to invest in other companies, advise other companies. And that's how it happened. So we supported a lot of other startups. And also what I'm really proud of is that there are lots of startups of ex-Contovista people that were started. And whenever that happens, that makes me really happy.
That's the best. We did like a mafia map to show that, like the PayPal mafia in the US.
Yes.
We tried to come up with the same. Does that exist in Switzerland? That's one of the most important health factors of an ecosystem. If you have former startup founders or employees starting multiple new companies, that's the best thing that can happen.
Yeah. I also think that's great. And then they bring in all the learnings they did with the first company into their company. Yep. And you can really see how that's helpful.
Yeah. At the point of the exit, were you profitable with Contovista when you were selling?
Yes. So we were profitable for 2 years.
Nice.
And then we decided to invest. So profitability is a bit of how you. So we decided to invest again. Before we sold, we were profitable for 2 years.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And how much did you sell for?
I mean, we agreed with the buyers that we don't disclose it. If you're a good accountant, you can find out, but I shouldn't say it.
Okay, it's in the public records of the company, of course. And what did that mean for you personally? I mean, that also meant probably a very significant payday for you. How much money did that mean for you personally?
Yeah, it was a life-changing sum for me, of course. Yeah. Before I didn't have a lot of money because like when we started, Nicolas and me, we took all the money we had and we said, okay, now we have runway for 6 months to test this Banca Vista thing. Yeah. That became Contovista, and then of course as a founder you always like you don't have the big salaries. You want your company to succeed, and then from that moment on, like everything changed. And yeah, that's a big change because also you have to think about everything, like what really motivates you, where do you want to invest the time in your life? Like what is important to you?
Absolutely.
All those questions.
You told me in the preparation for the call that your early investors, they got a 33x return. That's superb.
Yeah. If you invested in the first round, then one of the investors calculated that there was 33x.
Wow, that's really impressive. Well done. And then with that money that you made in that sale, basically, you already said before, you then reinvested in the next generation of entrepreneurs. You became an investor and a board member. You're even marked as Business Angel of the Year by the SECA in 2022. So you became very active to give back and to continue developing and building the ecosystem here in Switzerland. Some of the companies you invested in were Yokoi, Apsi, Scribble, Snipped, Rivera, Relio, and many, many more. How do you work with these companies then? Because that's quite a shift from being a founder yourself to becoming an investor.
Yes, that's a shift. But that was also for me like a very welcome shift because like as a CEO and founder, you're really into the weeds, like operational, solving problems, and to then have the switch to not be so deep, but seeing different companies. Mm-hmm. That was like really nice for me. I also learned a lot during that time because you can compare how different entrepreneurs solve problems. You can connect them if you know this over here already, this company already solved something that they have as a problem now. Yeah, and that's why for me it was a really welcome change, and I was also not like inclined to go in really deep again. So I was very happy for a while to be on that level because it was also during the years that our kids were born. So it was a good timing.
Absolutely, because being a founder, full steam on, fully operational, that's also very exhausting. So it's probably good to shift to investor, which I assume is a bit less exhausting, but still pretty cool to work with very driven entrepreneurs day in, day out.
Yes. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's not the same. No. But as you say, on both levels, you don't have the intensity in the positive, but also in the negative. Yeah.
Fair enough. And I just wonder, you focus on early stage startups. So usually you went in with the first round of financing that these startups were looking for. Why was that the right focus for you? Why did you feel that, hey, this makes the most sense for you as an investor as well?
So, I mean, that's where my experience is, like early stage. But I also think in general, I would say as a business angel, you can have the most impact helping a company in the first 1 to 3 years, because then it's really when like the groundwork is set, when it's this strive to find product market fit. And I think in my experience there, if you can like just with the half-hour talk about something that someone is struggling with and you maybe have some experience with, that helps a lot. And also in my Contovista days, like the business angels that we had, like in the beginning, that was so important. And then with the time, you could see how it's not so relevant anymore. So it's really, in my experience, really the beginning where you can have an impact as a business angel.
And as a founder, you can spend your time on so many things. You can try to get a board together. You can try to build the most beautiful product, acquire new customers, many, many things. But for you, it's always product market fit first and minimize all the other distractions, so to speak. Why is that?
Absolutely. And that's also a learning, I would say. And we didn't do it so well at Contovista, I would say. And that's also maybe a first time founder thing, because you're not sure what is important. And then you have like HR, you have like bookkeeping, and maybe you have to do some reportings for investors, and it all sounds so important. But at the end, it's really not. The only thing that matters as an early stage company is to get to product market fit. Everything else is a distraction.
And how would you describe product market fit? Because I still feel we can go out there, ask 10 entrepreneurs. I would say at least 5 of them give you a different answer, if not all 10 of them. So what is product market fit for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there are some good definitions by Andy Radcliffe. I think he's one of the pioneers of product market fit. And I think also Mark Andreessen, when you have incredible growth, so the clients really pull the product out of you and it's profitable. So you have money piling onto your bank account, because of course you can cheat growth with giving away something.
Yeah. I can sell you $1 for 80 cents.
Exactly.
Of course you want it.
And then you have growth. But if it's real growth combined with money piling up, that's product market fit. And there are 2 good heuristics. If you're like a B2C company, then I think it's good to look at organic growth. So do you have organic exponential growth? Yeah. I think that's a good metric. And if you're a B2B company, I like the analogy that you should think about, or you should also test it. What if you would take your product away from the client? Yeah. Would they scream? Yeah. Would they say, I need it back tomorrow? And you can also do that if you do proof of concept, for example. You can, instead of trying to have it as that it prolongs automatically and whatever, you should try to just, after the proof of concept, it's gone. Yeah. If no one cares, you don't have product market fit. Yeah. They should really cry, and then you have product market fit on the B2B side.
When you described the Contovista launch, basically, where you just had the video to explain what you were doing, that already felt pretty close to product market fit, because people were pushing you and were sort of following up with you. Was that sort of the first initial feeling where you said, oh, we must be pretty close? Or when did you get that feeling, yeah, we hit it now?
Yeah, I would say there was no product market fit. That was just an indication that that the topic was needed. Because at the end, we pivoted. We didn't, our landing page, that was like a B2C offering, right? We were testing, like, would the users, the bank clients, use something like that? Yeah. But our business was B2B at the end. So we sold to banks. And there, like, this product market fit feeling came when like we talked to all the banks several times. Nobody cared in the beginning. And then I told you these two banks like said we're doing it. Yeah. And then it completely switched. Then it was like one bank after the other wanted to go live with us. We had to tell them when we have slots to go live. And at one point we had more banks as clients than we had employees, and that was a crazy time. But that was like when we had this with Contovista, this feeling of okay, now we're onto something.
I see. Now we understand a bit better how it feels like, and the customer is really ripping the product out of your hands, ideally. But the big question remains: how do you get to that stage? Because that's probably the most important, but also the most difficult thing to do as an early stage entrepreneur.
I would say product market fit is the hardest thing as an entrepreneur. And it's also hard because it's easy to trick yourself into thinking, because exactly what you said, there are so many definitions. So you can have a definition of product market fit that fits you. And like, I would say the most important thing is to iterate fast. So to set up your whole company so that you can iterate quickly. And it's a bit going back to this book of Eric Ries, The Lean Startup, right? Where you want to test hypotheses as quickly as possible. And then if it's not working, you wanna change something, right? Yeah. And you really need to set this up in this way and be really truthful with yourself. So you need to have some KPIs that you want to measure, because as an entrepreneur, of course, you're an optimist, right? And
you have to be.
You have to be. And that's exactly the danger, right? Because you would start and you would see some positive things and you would go back to the team and say, yeah, this is great. But that's really the danger, that you go down a path that is a bit, it's working a bit, but it's not this product market fit that you need to build a big business. And that's why I would say set everything up to iterate really quickly, keep burn low. So before product market fit, you should be really agile, because you want to be able to change like your product, the persona you sell to. You want to change those things quickly. And if you're too big, that's hard.
And that's probably also where investors come in, right? Because very early on, I see, and I did that mistake myself, you think, oh, this idea is so cool, let's get investors on board and we make it work. And then you sort of sell them a story where you say, this will work like that. And then it's a bit like a lock-in effect, so to speak, you know, where you say, I sold them this idea. Shit, now I have to make it work, even if it doesn't. How do you deal with that? Because I'm sure you also seen many things as an investor yourself.
Yes, you framed it perfectly. And that's a big issue I see, that I think there should be a different way of pitching investors, pre-product market fit to post-product market fit. Yeah. And that's where the lying to yourself and to your investors already starts, because we all use this pitch deck that says, there is a huge problem, there is a huge market, and we have the perfect solution, and those are the numbers to prove that it's the great solution, and that's why you should invest, right? Yeah. That's how we all learn it. And that's the problem, is exactly what you said, that it creates a lock-in, because you pitch it to your investors that you know exactly what needs to be done, and you also start to believe it. And then you're too slow to catch on to this tells that maybe you would need to pivot somewhere. Yeah. And what I see looking at startups and working with startups, if you have this dynamic that you sold something too hard to investors, and then, you're just waiting too long with the pivot, and sometimes it's then too late, because you might have lost the trust of the investors, and if you only come when you have like 2 months runway left and say, now we know what we should do, then it's a bit too late.
Absolutely. And that sounds a bit like a big dilemma that you are yourself in as a founder. And I wonder, pre-product market fit pitching, ideally, you don't need any money, you're bootstrapped. That would probably be in an ideal world. But the founders that still need some money to go all in and to build something and find product market fit, how should they pitch? Should they just go out there and say, hey, you invest in a team, we're committed, give us the runway for 2 years, we'll figure it out?
Not quite like that, but of course the team is really important. And then I would really be really transparent with investors what you're going to do. And that's why you should have this setup that you can iterate quickly, and you should prove to investors that you're with the team you have, you can do lots of iterations. And you should have a plan about which hypothesis you want to test and how quickly you can test them, and how you can, like, this is the next one we test, and if this doesn't work, we would go for this. And if you go to an investor with such a plan and proof points that you already did some iterations, I think for a good investor, that's amazing. So I would invest in such a company every time, because that's exactly the perfect setup to find product market fit. And if it's too like polished pitch deck that you feel they invested more time in the pitch deck than in building product and testing stuff,
that's a red flag.
Bit skeptic.
Absolutely. So you mentioned this iteration, the importance of iterating fast over and over again. How did you do it yourself back in the Contovista days? How fast were these cycles, or how short, and how did you work with them? Yeah,
that's where I said that was not optimal with Contovista. So when we started, we were really quick with the cycles. I told you we were 4 people, so we could iterate really quickly. But then the issue became a bit that it was like a software that we sold to banks, and they had to integrate the software into their e-bankings. So you can imagine that the iteration time was not so fast anymore, right? Because we would build something, but then we would, with every bank, we would need to define, okay, when will they deploy this new version and so on. So we were not so fast in getting user feedback. That's why we started to also do user testing on the side directly with bank clients and so on. But it wasn't the perfect setup to be quick and have quick iterations.
Yeah. Also due to the market. Yeah. I mean, that's obvious. And you also mentioned in the prep for this talk that it's important to measure your product market fit. You mentioned the KPIs in terms of organic growth, etc., but there are also like 3 different levels that you mentioned. Please also tell us a bit more about the 3 different levels of product market fit that you see out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a framework of first round capital. And we use that at Norm now, because I really like that framework. You can Google it, or we can link it to the show notes. And it's product market fit framework for B2B companies. And they have this concept that you have 4 levels of product market fit. And in the first level, you have your first clients, you get your first feedback. But yeah, it's when you start, right? The nice thing about this framework is it gives you a way to measure it. Where are you? And then what to focus on. So when you're on level 1, you should really focus on satisfaction. That's your main goal. And you can have few clients, but the few clients should really love your product. Yeah. That you love it. And,
do you measure that with like an NPS score, or what would be the best measure for that?
Yeah, you can do NPS. For example, at Norm now you go through this process to enter all your building data, and at the end of that process, you can give us a score from 1 to 5 and write something. So that's also a good thing how to measure. Or then repeat customers. So if someone did it with you once, are they coming back? Stuff like that, right? Yeah, but really focus on satisfaction when you're on that level, and only when you nail satisfaction, then you can say, okay, now we're on level 2. And then on level 2, you can really focusing on driving demand, because now you have something that people want. Yeah. So now start to generate demand. Yeah. And then if you nail that, you get to level 3, and only now you focus on efficiency. So that's the framework. And then when you nail that, you get to 4, and then you're a billion dollar company. Sounds easy. But I really like it, because I also saw it with Norm now. Whenever we do these quarterly planning sessions, and then so quickly you run into, because when you run into things like, okay, now we need to do things to increase efficiency because we have this bottleneck here, because the bottlenecks is what you feel in the team, right? Yeah. So whenever there is a bottleneck, everyone is really focused on doing things more efficient and so on. And this framework really helps us to really prioritize of course sometimes you have to do stuff for efficiency, but to really be aware of the trade-offs and the big chunk of the product roadmap should go into either satisfaction if you're there, or then demand creating if you're on level 2 and not yet the efficiency.
I love that. I see that a bit as a bathtub analogy. So you have a big bathtub, that's your company, but at the beginning it's full of holes. So if you put in too much water, it just goes out again. Nothing sticks, right?
Yes.
So that's the satisfaction. Once you fill the holes, the water stays in, and then only after you have the water, you can think about putting more water in there. Otherwise, it's useless.
Exactly.
And then you have to make the bathtub bigger.
Exactly. Quick enough.
I love that. So after Contovista, the successful exit, you started your own family. You also became an investor and joined multiple boards. But now in 2023, you then decided, hey, it's time to become operational yourself again. Why did you decide that it was time and the right moment to go back and start your own company?
Yes, the right moment is always, I think it was not the moment. It was more like a shift in my needs. I've done this investor thing for a while. I felt as I started to think more about own ideas again. I had some friends that were in a similar situation. They had an exit, they had the time off and were thinking about what to do next. And we just started to meet and thinking about stuff that we could do. And that's when I felt, okay, this it could be the right time. But it was not like now I have to do it. It was more like if we find something that we all really think is it's a good thing, but also like team-wise, we're sure that it's good, then I could imagine to go back into the arena again. And that's how it started.
Amazing. And what is obvious from the outside is your 6 co-founders at Norm. That seems like a pretty high number. Usually we see 2, 3, maybe 4 co-founders. How do you make it work with 6 people? That sounds incredibly complex to me.
Yeah. So first a bit the backstory and then how we make it work. But
sure.
Like the story was, we were 4 when we started, and this was us, like was Florin, Alex, Gian, and myself. So Gian, Alex, and Florin also already had exits. We were thinking around together, and we stumbled upon this idea of Norm because I was talking to my old banking contacts, and they all told me to look into this energy efficiency space because they had regulation coming up that they have to discuss the topic of energy efficiency with every mortgage client.
Oh wow, that's a big shift happening then in the market.
That's one. And on the other side, I was thinking for my own house. I was thinking about putting on PV and insulation, and I tried to find out what to do. It was really complex, and you have a bit of an incentive issue because whomever you ask, the guy from the heating,
of course you need a new heater.
You need a new heater, right? And insulation, say you need to insulate the home as well as you need to start there, right? But you don't have a person or a service that really can give you the whole thing in detail. Of course, you have a lot of calculators where you can enter a few data points and then they tell you should do something. Yeah. Yes, I know, but what exactly, how, in which things can I do together, and so on. And those two things together, like, gave us the motivation to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. And that was the 4 of us. And then we also we saw some gaps in the know-how that we had, and that's when we then looked out for 2 more that joined us, and that's how we ended up with 6. So then Marius and Marius, both they are both called Marius. They joined us like a few months later, and then we started off.
And how do you then split the equity? For example, you already had 4 co-founders starting a bit earlier. Then 2 more joining. Do they just get the same share amount? Do they get less shares? How do you make that work? Because I also think that's probably the first initial discussion point you have.
It is, exactly. And we shared it almost equally. So the two, they came later a bit less, but almost equally.
Okay.
And I think that's it. That's important that you, as a founder team, like for everything we do, we six are the same.
Yeah. And with 6 people, you also have a lot of decisions to make. How do you make them? Because with 6 people, I also imagine you can lose the speed that is so important that you described, to iterate fast, because there are different opinions, which way to go for, etc. How do you make decisions with 6 co-founders?
Yeah, that's a good point. And that was also when we started, we said we have like 2 things that we have to make sure that we do correctly. Then we probably see more advantages in a big founder team than disadvantages. But the one is the one you said, like speed of decision, and the second one was alignment. I think those are the 2 ones we have to nail. And we talked a lot about that. For example, with the decisions, we have this concept that we want to take most of the decisions on the individual level. So we only talk about decisions in a group when they're really important. Mm-hmm. And I think it's Jeff Bezos that has this nice concept of 1 or 2-way doors, right? Is a decision reversible, mm-hmm. like a 2-way door? Yeah. Then we should do it as quick as possible. And then, because like the nice thing about our team is everyone is really experienced on their topic. So we said, okay, if we have this much of experience, then just if it's reversible, just make the decision and be quick. Mm-hmm. And only for the non-reversible decision, 1-way doors, there we take a lot of time, we discuss it, and we discuss it in the whole team and make a decision like this. But turns out many decisions are 2-way doors and you can decide quickly. Yeah, that's one. And the second one is alignment, where like the good thing is that we all like somehow we all knew each other. Like so I knew Florin for a long time. He knew Alex and Gian. Alex and Gian built a company together. They know each other for like ages. Florin worked together in an earlier startup with one of the Mariuses, and I knew the other one. So it's really amazing. Yeah, we started off with really high trust, and I think that's something you need as well, because then this decide quickly really works. It only works if you trust the others, right?
Of course, makes a lot of sense. And you also said, okay, it was your own problem also a bit to really have a platform like Norm for your own house, and you saw there was a regulatory shift. How important was also the positive impact that you have on the world? Because with more energy efficiency in houses, you can also significantly reduce CO2 that comes from housing, etc. How much of a role did that play for starting Norm?
That was crucial. I didn't say that, but like when we were 4 and tinkering of products, the only thing we agreed on upfront was that we want to do something with technology and something that has a positive impact. Those were like the two things that we defined for ourselves.
Clear criteria in that sense. And you also mentioned that you have seen a lot, with the different startups, your own company. So I wonder, what do you now do differently at Norm compared to everything else you saw before? Basically, your whole experience condensed in a new company.
Yeah, we do a few things differently, especially differently than Contovista, but also, maybe differently of other startups. But it's always, at the end, I can now tell you what we do, but at the end, it's important that you as an entrepreneur do the things that work for your startup, your culture.
Of course.
But for us, for example, it was really good to start bootstrapped, so that we were really like no external investors, just our founding team, and we could be, because that's also, if you want to be quick, the less people you have to involve, the quicker you are with changing directions, with testing new stuff. So that was good for us. Then I would say this extreme focus on product market fit, that we have like a framework where we always check where do we stand. We also hold each other accountable, and I think that's also a good thing of a big founder team, because if you're 2, it's easier to like talk yourself into something. But if you're 6, you always have someone that says, no, that's not true. Yeah. That's bullshit.
Very good.
Yeah. So that helps a lot. And then also, no, one-on-ones. I think one-on-ones are great, but later in a stage of a company, when you're small, pre-product market fit and very aligned, you should be so aligned that you don't necessarily need one-on-ones, because if everyone is doing one-on-ones, it's a lot of time, and we have a strict policy of as little meetings as possible. We have 1 meeting a week with the whole team, 2 hours, and that's it.
I love that. It's way more efficient because most of the stuff is not time critical.
Yeah, exactly.
But you need it for the alignment part.
Yeah.
I love that. You mentioned the product market fit framework. Since we already talked extensively about product market fit, how does your framework look like at Norm? How do you track whether you're on or off track?
Yeah, we have a matrix, and there we have the combination of use case client. So which use case for which client is one row. And then we measure different things like satisfactions, the things we discussed before. And then we also give ourselves the level we're in. So for every use case we define for ourselves based on the KPIs, what is the level we're in? And then what are the things that we would need to get to the next level? So we have a nice overview on the things we could work on. Mm-hmm. And then with that, you have a good way to go into this product prioritization meetings where you say, okay, what are we working on? So where do we think we have the best chance to make a big jump in direction of product market fit?
That's so cool. Very nice. And I also wonder, just to give people a bit more context about how big the issue is. You mentioned the regulatory change. Bankers start talking about it. Oh, we need to address this with every mortgage that we hand out. How big of a role do buildings actually play in terms of CO2 emission and global warming in that sense?
It's a huge role. That's also something we found out, because we also tried other businesses where we were at the end, when we calculated it, it was not really so relevant. And here we were also surprised to learn that in Europe, it's depending on the country, it's between 30 and 40% of the emissions are from the building sector.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
Not transportation or anything, it's buildings.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And the nice thing is also, if you manage to reduce it, you really reduce it here, right? Yeah. It's not somewhere somehow, but it's really, it's where you're doing it, you're also reducing the emissions. And that's also the good thing for us now is everyone that is working in this reduction sector, they know that it's a big thing. Mm-hmm. So also the government that committed to net zero goals, and so they know, and that's how these regulations came to be, right? They see, okay, this is a big chunk, and then they think, okay, how can we impact this? Because that's the hard thing, right? You have so many owners of these buildings. You need to motivate. How do you motivate them? And then you have, of course, subsidies. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you also try to add more pressure. And how do you do that? What does every building has? Or most buildings have some relationship with the bank. So if you manage the banks to do something there, you have a huge lever. And definitely. That's also what we like, that we don't have to go out and do B2C marketing to get to the homeowners. Yeah. We can work with banks. They have huge portfolios, and I already had good network to banks because of Contovista. So we thought this could be a good mix.
Amazing. And how does your business model work? Do you then just charge a fee for the assessment? Do you charge basically on the referrals that you then place to get the building work done? How do you make money as Norm?
Yeah, so we have two models in the moment. So you can license a calculator to see, like, to have this first assessment. There it's classical SaaS license fee.
And the bank will buy that from you.
For example, a bank would buy that. They can integrate them in their e-banking. Credit Suisse, for example, has it in their e-banking. Or AXA did a nice campaign where you could first check your energy efficiency on their side. And then we have the second step where you do the detailed analysis. And that one is transactional.
Okay.
So you pay per building that you analyze with us. And then the third thing that you mentioned that we haven't done yet, but that's something we will also look into it.
Amazing. I love how you describe that, because of course the timing makes a lot of sense with the regulations changing, but everyone has these incentives of, you need a new heating, you need a new roof, whatever it is. And I never thought that there's this big lack of a transparent sort of neutral assessment that shows you where you have the best and biggest leverage, because you don't have an infinite amount of money that you just do everything. You want to make sure that you invest the money the most productive way possible. So that makes so much sense. I cannot believe that this does not exist yet.
I mean, it exists, but not scalable. Yeah. So and it's really hard to, because at the moment what you would need to do is you would need to find an energy consultant, and you would need to be able to assess them, because there are thousands of them. So if you find a great energy consultant and then you pay this person a few $1,000, then you will get that. And that's how it was done.
But who does that, right?
But exactly. Yeah. That's exactly if you think about impact, that's exactly where we lose a lot of people that would want to, like myself, that would want to do something. But that at the end, it's like too complex, too expensive, and you're not sure if this person really does what is in your interest. Yeah. And then at the end you say, okay, I wait 2 more years, right? Yeah. And we want to change that and really build trustful brand where B2B clients work with us, but at the end, and that's also a nice thing about Norm, is the B2C client, so the client of the bank sees Norm, because banks don't want to white label this. They want to have a partner that is specialized, right?
An independent, qualified party.
Exactly. So that's why, like, we play in both worlds.
Yeah. And can you also talk a bit more about the current traction? I saw you stroke a lot of very well-known partnerships. Can you tell us a bit more about where you stand in terms of traction today?
Yeah, that's what we measure with our product market fit framework, right? And it's, as I told you, we have different use cases, and for some we assess ourselves on level 2, so we have very, very high satisfaction. That's great, and there we now need to focus on demand. That's, for example, one of those is a green mortgage. If you're a bank or an insurance and you offer a green mortgage, you need somehow to prove that your building has a certain energy efficiency to get the green mortgage. And we can offer that cheaper and quicker. So Amazing. It's a no-brainer, right? And people love it. It's growing, but it's growing with the clients we already have. And there we now need to focus on having more clients. And then we have other use cases where we're still in level 1, and we need to work on the satisfaction.
One thing I also think about when I think about product market fit, you starting now here in Switzerland, and obviously you know the banks, you know the market, but how does product market fit then work once you want to expand outside of Switzerland? Do you sort of have that product market fit work as a constant work in progress, because things can change and you always have to monitor it and reassess, or how does that work?
No, yes, I mean, over the lifetime of a company, because also if you have one product where you really have product market fit and you become a big company, you still need at some point to have the next product, right? Lined up. So and there you start exactly with the same logic. And for us with Norm, it's like our goal is now to build up relationship with international known brands like UBS and AXA, where you then can also switch to the next country and show them that you really know what you're doing.
Amazing. So it seems you're off to a fantastic start. I know you're not a big fan of fake work with like a 5-year financial plan or stuff like that. But what is your ambition, your vision? What is sort of next for you and Norm? Where do you want to take this?
Yeah, we have quite an ambition, and like the measurement for us at the end is impact. Like how many homes can be retrofitted, maybe faster, maybe better because of what we're doing. But how we're going to get there, I think that's part of the journey now, and that's also one of our principles. We like to communicate things when we achieve them and not before.
I like that. That's very down to earth. Very cool. And what is next for you, Gian, individually as a person?
As a person, I want to enjoy the journey with Norm.
Yeah.
And that was also maybe a learning with Contovista. There it was more outcome focused. And here I really want to also enjoy the journey, because I think there are a lot of things that are amazing while building a company, and you should just be aware, or sometimes be aware, and really enjoy it, and make sure that you know that also the journey is part of it. And besides that, also enjoy my time with family and friends, and strike somehow a good balance between the two.
Amazing. And Gian, to wrap up the conversation today, we also have some rapid fire questions for you. I either give you different options to choose from or a short question, and you have to answer in maximum 1 sentence.
Okay.
You ready?
Let's try.
Founder or investor?
Founder.
Clear choice. How energy efficient is your house?
C.
Okay. How many hours of sleep did you get last night?
8.
Nice. How do your co-founders, I have to say in plural, of course, compliment you?
This would be many sentences. but yeah, you can imagine on every important level, product, technology, growth, and so on, we have one of my co-founders is really, really strong and way better than me.
Nice. And are you more of a morning person or a night owl?
I can be both.
Hybrid.
It depends. It depends a bit on my mood and the mode. I mean, yes.
Fair. What does money mean to you?
I think it opens up opportunities.
Yeah. How do you invest outside of startups, if at all?
I just bought a house. That's an investment.
Definitely. And the last one for you, Zurich or Graubünden?
Oh, that's a hard one. That one I can choose. I really need both.
You take the joker in that sense.
I need both.
Gian, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was a lot of fun, and you shared so many wisdoms. I'm sure the listeners will find it insightful. And I have no doubt that we'll see, hear, and just follow your journey for much, much longer. With Norman, you'll have great success. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Silvan.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.